What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker, and we are here in Milwaukee.
Yes, episode 44.
44, the big 4-4. We
got
stopped
it right.
making age jokes a long time ago as
Yes.
we progress, so we won't make an age joke this time about 44. But
I'm just happy we remembered what episode it was.
I had to ask you before we got on here, a little trick of the trade. It is Halloween
Yep.
today, right now, at this moment. What are you dressed up as? That's a rhetorical question.
I was going to say neither one of us got the memo.
That they won't answer. But Halloween story-wise, when I was in high school, I used to volunteer at a haunted hayride.
Okay.
And I used to scare the crap out of every family coming on the haunted hayride. And a funny story about that is one time I scared a guy so badly, I think he had been drinking a little bit. He turned, I got him and he turned around and he punched me in the face.
Oh my God.
I fell down. I was 16 and I was freaking out. All my friends were like, dude, what just happened? So we get to the fire afterwards where they have a bonfire.
Yeah.
And he came up to me and he apologized. He was like, dude, you got me. That was my initial reaction was to turn around. And he's like, I just want to let you know, I'm so sorry. And that was the funniest thing. It was outstanding. So I felt like that.
Were
night.
you behind anything, or did you just kind of
I jumped and I was behind him on a hayride, right? And then he
And he
turned
just
around
clocked you.
and he freaked out and he clocked me. Yeah, which means I got him. So that was.
I've never scared anybody to the point that they have punched me.
It was
so
great.
I don't know what that says about my character.
That says
but
that you need to be more scary. Is essentially
apparently
it.
I am
Yeah.
not scary enough. So, you know what's not scary though, Jim?
What? Tell me more.
This episode that we have today.
Oh, that was the transition of the
guests
century right there.
as well.
You hear it in his voice too. It's good.
We know what we're doing.
We're
yeah.
excited. No, we have a very special guest today. Someone who I've known for, I think about 30 years now, or roughly. No, actually about 13. But 30 years would be that would.
I was
be,
gonna say, don't say
be a
that.
long time.
Sounds-
We have Tom Nass with us. 2-syllable names. Gotta love them.
Jim Love, Tom
Takes
Nass.
one to know one. Alan No, that's
No, I know.
not it.
Don't worry. I
Sorry
broke
to
it.
leave you
I
out.
broke it.
It's
Anyway.
fine. Tom Nass is the owner and founder and sole proprietor and CEO, I'll just quit naming titles here, of Brew City Carpentry, LLC. And we're so happy to have Tom on the podcast today.
We still don't have the applause.
And we
button.
never will, because this is more organic. And that's
We
the way I
could
like it.
be putting this in post, and we just never do
It's
it.
never going to happen. We've
No.
been asked this since literally episode 15 to have an actual clapping track.
Laugh
And
track
we're
wouldn't hurt either.
And also that was a laugh track. Anyway, Tom, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you. Happy to be here. I'm doing well. And,
Awesome.
I appreciate the intro, and I think I'm going to take some of those other titles you listed and add them to my business card
Good.
and maybe get some more business.
And I have a business card just to throw it out there, and it would help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
There
not,
you
it's
go.
not filled out yet. But Tom, you are born and raised Milwaukee kid, Brookfield specifically. If y'all don't know, that's a suburb of Milwaukee. Tell us a little bit about your family and where you went to school, and we'll kind of get into some of your experience post grad after that too.
Well, I don't know if you know this even, but I was actually born and grew up for 3 years on the east side of Milwaukee. And so I was actually born at Aurora Sinai on Marquette's campus. So when I gave tours, people I would say, hey, I was born on campus, destined to be here. But then my folks moved to Brookfield, but I still strongly resonate with Milwaukee culture and everything like that.
You know what's funny? The preface you gave made it sound like you were born in Africa or something. And the way you're I was born 3 miles away from.
Yeah, I should have said that. That'd have been funny.
You're it's funny you said I was born
Yeah.
pretty much right there. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you couldn't tell by my
So you two were a Marquette tour guide.
Yes.
Jim was as well.
Part of the cult.
I never
sometimes.
was. Yeah. So
That's
I'm-
okay.
No,
We
it's
didn't-
probably better to not.
Yeah,
have that.
it was a lot. We loved them all, but it was a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
So tell us. I mean, growing up in Brookfield and then high school.
Yeah,
Where-
so I have two younger brothers. So we were all within a year of each other. So 6th, 7th, 8th grade. We're just always 1 year apart, kind of thing. And then they went to Brookfield Central High School. I went to Marquette High School.
Okay. Toppers.
Yeah,
I'm not one, but I just know
those
them.
Jesuits. So
yeah.
that was a really incredible experience for me. Learned a ton of awesome things about life and just friendships and stuff, and still have some good friends today from there. And then Marquette U, where I unfortunately met Jim.
As we all did.
Well, that really brought the tone down. You guys both
Just
suck.
kidding.
How about
Just
that?
kidding. So yeah, I mean, it's been 13 years, but yeah, it feels like 30 sometimes.
In good ways and bad.
In many good ways.
I will say the class of 07 from Marquette High
yeah.
is one of the best. And also the class of 09, the one that I was in. But sometimes I feel like I graduated with those classes from the amount of people that just did so many great things at
Class of
Marquette
09
U.
Marquette High. I was going to say you were not in. You were
I
not
wasn't
in that class.
But I feel like I was a part of it. Yes.
Yeah, but you connected with a lot of good guys, especially people older than you. Like a lot of my friend group, you kind of played.
Oh, the 07 one. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, great people, and then you just kind of moved up Wisconsin Avenue right into Marquette U.
Yeah, I mean, even some of my friends, they went further to college or further to high school than they went to college because it was closer to go to Marquette U. So yeah, but just down the road. My mom actually is a nurse for the Jesuits, so she is in charge of like healthcare and stuff, and knows a bunch of the Jesuits, and so we had a lot of cool connections. I got to work at the Jazz Res on campus and get all these like free food and cookies and Gatorade. And
Sweet. You put free food by Tom, and he's gonna come back. That's a good point. We'll be coming back. I don't know why I made it seem like that was just a Tom thing.
Yeah, because I got called out for taking too much. Like I like imagine this. So the desk receptionist job I have, you have this like office and no one's in there, and the job is to answer the door, and like answer the phone calls. And everybody has like a key to the building, and they all have their own personal phone in the room. So like I didn't really have to do too much, but they served dinner, and I always scheduled my shifts to go over the dinner hour. So I'd always go in and fill up my full tray of food, like salad, whatever they had for the entrees, tons of cookies, Gatorades, and then I go eat that all, and that was it, just one meal, or one tray of food. But the kitchen staff would like email my supervisor and say, "Hey, he's taking a lot of food."
Oh my goodness!
Imagine being the talk of the town in the Jesuit residence.
Right,
it's fantastic.
I'm like, I could have more, and this was like, in college I was on the club football team, and I was like running around and being active, so I ate a lot of calories.
Yeah, the Michael Phelps diet.
Not so much that, but I got in trouble a couple times for taking too much food in one serving.
You're in college. Everybody's trying to get free food.
For the record, I worked at a rectory when I was in high school, which is where Catholic priests live in a parish, and they had food all the time, everywhere. Like, and they do okay on food. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I mean, living in
there's
community.
a vow of poverty, but like, nonetheless, it's still there's.
Do you ever hear the Jesuit joke? If this is poverty, give me chastity.
Wow,
there it is.
Amazing.
A joke for all ages. I love it. It's fantastic.
So you've got a carpentry business, Brew City Carpentry. Were you always like a handy person growing up, like to build stuff, or was it like, when did you kind of start building and constructing things? Were you a Lego kid?
Yeah, I was a Lego kid for way too long.
Still is.
I remember, this is embarrassing. I don't know who listens to this podcast, but hopefully it's no one I know.
It is someone you know. So
great.
Continue on. Yeah.
So when I was like in like 8th grade or way too old to be playing with Legos, I think I was like applying to high schools at the time, and I was like I'm just gonna decompress. I'm gonna go down to my little Lego city that I had built up since I was 4 years old or whatever, and just keep playing with it for like a half hour every so often, and it was just way too old to be playing with Legos. But so my dad was super handy, and that's kind of where I got a lot of my skills from, and like his dad was super handy, and we had a lot of tools and like kind of hand me downs from him that were like, oh, what is this, like saw that reciprocates back and like, oh, that's cool. I can cut something with that, And
did it come natural like to do some of those, or did you really have to like learn, or do you feel like you picked up on tools and processes pretty quickly?
It's interesting. That's a good question, because like I have 2 brothers, right? Like the 3 of us are very different in our like abilities to do construction. I feel like every Saturday when we were younger, my dad's like, all right, guys, we're coming outside, we're cutting down trees. Every Saturday for like 10 years, it was like
classic dad. That's
classic dad. And so he's telling us like how to haul the brush, everything. And my younger brother we'd always be like, where's Tim? Where did he go? And every Saturday, and we find him back inside watching TV. It's just every Saturday. So it doesn't always come naturally to everybody, I think. But I also feel like it's teachable, because throughout my experience in various disciplines with construction, if I'm teaching volunteers or whatnot, like as long as you're open to like the concept of it, and I've especially found that if people are just kind of like intellectually can see the big picture of what it's supposed to be, they can do it. So like even in New Orleans, like when we were doing our trips down there, like a lot of these students, especially like a lot of the like construction seems like, oh, this is like a man thing, but like a lot of the girls were so good at doing like a lot of the drywall stuff.
Much better than I ever would be.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
because they could just like see the big, like, hey, this wall is bumpy, it needs to be flat, and so like smooth it with mud or whatever, like, and it just makes sense.
Yeah. I do feel like some people can walk into a room though like that and just sort of like identify quickly what needs to get done, and I just like don't have. I'm like, oh, there's some cylinder. I don't even know. So it's a really cool gift. But so you talked about New Orleans. So Tom and I actually met in New Orleans when I was a freshman and you were a junior, and we went to to New Orleans about a dozen times, a couple more in college, and it was part of a Hurricane Katrina relief effort that we took students down every break essentially. So a lot of people are going to like to Cancun for spring break, and we were busting our butt.
Or they're going to Bourbon Street in New
Orleans.
Orleans,
Yeah, right.
and you were
right.
not.
And it was so interesting because we weren't allowed to drink on those trips. So like I've been to New Orleans 13 times at one point, and I never touched alcohol when I was there, which is just like, I tell people that now.
That seems,
I actually kind of pride
unreal.
myself on it, and at that time it's
good.
like, and then we went post grad and things changed.
Right.
But either way, it was a really cool trip, and Tom was the coordinator when I was there for the first time, and my van was like 3 hours late getting in at like 10 p.m. and we were all tired and everything. We met him in the parking lot, and I guess the rest is history. And here you are.
Yeah, man. Welcome with open arms. That
Yeah,
was
there you
the
go.
beginning of a great friendship. And I think that was just a beautiful thing too, because like, that experience. I mean, there's so many friendships and just the community down there.
Yeah.
But also like how few people in the world can say they've been to New Orleans this many times and not drinking alcohol when they were of age.
It's
Right.
wild. It's
Yeah,
wild.
that
There's gotta be
actually-
select
Yeah.
few. It's like people who've been on the moon and people who've been to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt.
exactly.
It literally is. Well, I think what's really interesting for you particularly is I know you have a background in ministry and in your faith life. And I think New Orleans was a great balance for you to sort of have that reflection time and really know what it meant to how it connected to God and how it connected to your faith, but also then practice your construction abilities and really put it in. Like, do you feel like that really combined two big areas of your life? And did it impact both of them in a sense you wanted to follow them both pretty closely when you were done?
Man, you get to practice. These are good questions.
You're damn right they are. Let's go.
44 episodes in, we're nailing
We're
it.
in.
Except for the part where we pat ourselves on the back mid-episode.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't win them all.
Yeah, I'll Google an applause track for you guys. No, I mean that's a really good point. And I think like there's definitely like the aspect of just going to a different. I mean, because New Orleans is like a different country in a sense. Just the culture,
really
the
is.
community, especially like just being so different from just Wisconsin in terms of even like everything. Just like the elevation, like being so close to sea level, like all the the different like culture with food and just like the experience of the people, the poverty, the systemic structures down there. I think are still different, even though there's like a lot of similarities sometimes in poverty
It's very generational. I mean, that's such a big thing with New Orleans is people had been there for five generations and really wanted to come back, and that's why the restoration projects were up and that meant that we met a lot of people. We met people who had lived there for their great grandparents were there and they wanted to be there. That was where their life was at, and they wanted to keep it that way. And that's such a difference between, I mean, the culture was just, it sort of, you walked right into it. You could like feel it when you got there. Yeah. And I know like those conversations and talking to those homeowners, because it's the same for me. I know how much it impacted you, and you're like, I'm here for a better reason. And then on top of that, you're like, I'm gonna go drywall your living room. Like that's cool, and you can give them a skill that not only feels like you connected with them on a social level, but you also literally help them. As one homeowner called it sweat equity, is what she had in her house, and she's like, you worked in here. And now you're welcome here anytime you want to. So I know that was such a gift to have sort of all those interactions.
Absolutely.
And I can imagine that then you're like, okay, well, what do I do now with this? And you're going through college and graduate, did a victory lap and you're out and you're good to go.
Well, I think
which was my favorite thing because I got to hang out with you.
Yeah, it was the best because we got to. I mean, I probably would have graduated on time if Jim was also graduating.
Good point.
But since Jim was sticking around another year or two, so
it was a fairly unselfish move by you, and I appreciate that.
Might as well hang out.
That was the best decision. but yeah, New Orleans was great. I learned a ton about a lot of different construction aspects down there, and like kind of what we were talking about before. Like I learned a ton from my dad with carpentry and random things, because he in high school bought a building in the 5th Ward right across from Purple Door Ice Cream.
Convenient.
Yeah. And so now it's an antique shop and like apartments, but like for like 6 years, my brothers and I would just every day after school go there and like sweep the floors and chip plaster off of bricks and de-nail boards and put up drywall and like all this stuff for like what seemed like our entire high school, like after school time besides sports. So we kind of got a lot of skills from that / like perseverance to do things that like like why are we doing this,
right?
Just to like look to the future, and that's almost spiritual in a sense too, to be like looking for something beyond what's happening right now. And then New Orleans, and then after that I did a year of service in Portland, which wasn't construction, but it was like working with homeless and those addicted to drugs and alcohol, and living in an intentional community, which was like super powerful. Probably the most formative year of my entire life, which was I'm very thankful for. But I also like.
And talk to us about how many mirrors you looked at. While you're in Portland.
So I did this thing, and you guys look at me now, and I have a beard. And the reason I do is because I did No Shave November for the first time ever when I was my first year out of college.
Okay.
And I'm like, if I'm gonna do No Shave November, because I didn't think I could grow really a beard at all, and and there's some people who can grow incredible beards, but like I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I need to like not see myself, because if as soon as I see myself with like a little stubble or whatever it might be, I'm gonna shave it, because I can't handle it. So for an entire month, which I didn't realize how much of a social experiment it was, I just didn't look in any mirrors. And so I was wearing contacts at the time, so I'm like trying to put contacts in like without a mirror. And, like,
Oh my god.
and then we had like a gym membership too. So if we were at the gym, I was like would wear a hat and keep it down.
You gotta wear like a blind.
I mean, there's mirrors everywhere. Yeah, it's mirror walls.
Right.
So that was
literally the worst place to be if you don't want to look.
Right, seriously. That in a fun house.
Yeah, I was
Fun
gonna
house
say
is
that's the only
probably
other one.
number
Yeah,
one
yeah.
in that.
Yeah, but I mean, like that, we did so much. Like that year, we would do like energy fast, where we wouldn't have any lights or the stove or like the refrigerator even on. Like nothing like that was on for like a whole day, and we just like enjoy candlelight and guitar, and we would do like sugar fast. Like we wouldn't like use water sometimes. We would like just try to like be more sustainable and all this like this West Coast Portland like hipster vibes.
Yeah.
What was the biggest thing you took away from Portland? If you had to be like this was like I left.
Oh man.
And here was the prevailing feeling I had when I walked out of there of what's next.
I think the thing that has resonated with me most is like that true growth comes from vulnerability, and I feel like I feel like that can be said in community, that can be said with those who are serving, whether that's if it was at St. Ben's or other programs that serve people, just whether it's vulnerable like as a volunteer who realizes like we are not giving like of our excess or not giving down to somebody, but we're equal, we're on the same plane.
Sure.
We're just giving and receiving to each other,
Yeah, there's a lot of power in vulnerability, no doubt about it. I think particularly for men, and we talk about this a lot, like we don't typically get that way, very often. And obviously the experiences you had helped you come to that conclusion. So that was like, I think that really grew your ministry aspect of your life. And so coming back from Portland, you get home and I know you obviously have these carpentry skills and you have ministry in your head, and you're hanging out at St. Ben's and me on Tuesdays.
Yeah, man, that was great.
What was the next step after that? Is what because I think you had some options. You had options what you want to do, and
I guess so. I mean, I don't really think about it too much because I was very fortunate and maybe naive in many ways, because I really only applied to one college. I applied to like one post college thing, and fortunately I was accepted to them because I didn't really have any backups. And then after this year in the Northwest, I applied to Habitat in Milwaukee and got accepted. I'm like, oh, this is great. So
that's Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah,
right?
Habitat for Humanity, Milwaukee chapter, and so I was a construction site coordinator. So I coordinated the volunteering for people who come from like U.S. Bank or Sargento or like big
or Catholic Financial
Life.
My old job.
Yes,
great. Yes, Alan's too. That's where we met actually.
Yeah.
Oh,
We were
that's in college. Yes.
Well, I would say.
College.
I mean, I guess you were a commuter though. You didn't do much.
I was around.
Oh, you didn't count.
We met.
He's kind of a dorky commuter student. Don't tell them that though.
Well, you're doing this together right now.
Yeah,
So
good point.
Yeah,
It
it's a
worked
little
out.
late,
you
man.
committed to each other.
You're at my house.
Damn it! Yeah. Great house, by the way.
Yeah, you know
My
how I got
44th
there? I
time here.
commuted here. Yeah, no. So we met there, but anyway,
That's
carry
awesome.
on.
Go ahead.
Carry on. Habitat for
No,
Humanity.
that was. I'm glad we had that little side.
Yeah,
track.
that's
Thank
good.
you. More questions on that later. But no, I mean Habitat was awesome, and that was really cool because I kind of got to see like the systems in Milwaukee and like the foreclosed housing crisis and like everything that went down with like sustainable housing for people in Milwaukee and low income. And so I worked with like a handful of other volunteers. So the year in Portland and the year in Milwaukee at Habitat were both AmeriCorps years.
Yeah.
So I was like volunteering.
And again, I feel like doing a little bit of both. Of I know that there's reflection involved with Habitat, and there's really a sense of community with it, while quite literally doing your carpentry skills. Like I feel like the majority of what you've done has built both of them up, and kind of like okay, like they're here, they're circulating together, and they're sort of in conjunction with each other, and you're kind of build it out, and so and then as you're moving along, I know you've done other ministry jobs and been involved at schools, etc. And when did you decide to take on carpentry then full time? Like when was that? Like this is what I need to do, and small business, because that's a difficult decision when you're kind of involved in a lot of things. I know how passionate you are about ministry, and it's like, okay, well, I think I have something here, and it's time I start monetizing off of it.
Well, this is great to hear, because I don't always reflect like this the way that you see, and I feel like that can be said for anyone. Like, you don't always see yourself the way that others do, but you talk about how, like, I had this kind of like ministry carpentry kind of thing going. I'm like, but I bounced back and forth so many times between things that I didn't really feel like I had a direction, but I just was doing, I feel like, kind of where I felt called in the moment, and I could help someone else. And so I started doing carpentry full time because people just kept asking me to help them with things, and
that's a good reason to do it,
I would do a lot of mission trips. Like, that was a big thing too. So like every year for, a decade or two, or like I had done like mission trips to all over the country with like high schools and parishes, and so there's a lot of connections through that, and a lot of it is construction work. So they'd be like, hey, can you come do this kind of work we volunteered for in New Mexico or Tennessee? Can you come do this in my home and I'll pay you? And I'm like, pay me?
I remember, one time I know, right? Yeah, the payment thing. That's which I'm going to get to that in a second, because that's a bizarre thing to be asked for something you're good at. But I remember one time I came home for, I think it was like a spring break or maybe a summer break, my junior year of college. And I had gone to New Orleans, a ton of times, and I'd done a lot. And my parents were like, we need you to help paint the house. They're like, you could bring your ministry home. And I was like, that's not the same.
That's hilarious.
I was like, this is a chore. Funny. And I was so upset, and I'm so stubborn, and I was like, I'm like, this BS.
They were like, pray a rosary while you paint.
Yeah, I know.
The kitchen needs to get done.
It's like, right, here we go. It was like a 3-day project. And they were like, well, you can, your ministry's here in Chicago now. Yeah, and I know my parents listen to this, and that did not go well. I want to throw it out there. I love you both, but that did not go well.
Wow.
That's funny. They probably know that already. But
anyway,
good for them for trying to con you into doing
housework. No, it worked. I painted.
Smart,
Did you have to clean the room you left when you were in New Orleans? Can you clean your room here?
This one here too? Yeah. Who'd you do that for? Yeah, it was great. But the part of being paid for it, because we talk about here a lot of like that thing you're good at, the thing that you have value with, and something you've been interested for a long time and have thought about maybe monetizing. All of a sudden people start asking you to do it, and they're going to pay you. Like that was a weird thing for me, to be paid to speak. Like, were you like, especially people that you knew, like, you're going to pay me to like do this here? Like, was that uncomfortable for you at first?
I mean, yeah, it's always weird when someone's like, hey, like, how much can I pay you for what you just did? I'm like, I got to tell you how much you owe me. Like,
it's
that's
a bizarre
weird.
feeling. Yeah.
It's weird. And I think, I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this too, because, for me, like, carpentry is a very tangible thing. Like, oh, like, I put this door in, or I built this structure. It wasn't there before. I used my tools and materials to build it. Like, I had to pay someone else for this stuff.
Right.
I'm building this for you, my time, whatever. And so like that kind of makes a little bit more sense.
Sure.
Whereas like if you were like, hey, I'm gonna give a talk to my high school, I'm gonna give a talk to this, I'm gonna do a podcast, whatever. Like I feel like that kind of is just like of a passion.
No doubt, it's harder. No, there's no question, because it's not material. You don't really see the thing right away. I'm not giving them something, and that's why it took me a long time to actually even come up with a price. And to be honest, I still struggle with that. I know I brought that up here before.
I mean, there's time and a
like
commitment.
it's a value. It's my thing. And I do it. I'm way more comfortable with it now than I was years ago. But it's still a bizarre thing that I never thought I would be doing. But but it's to your point. It's not like I'm not giving a hammer and putting in a nail. Like I'm talking as something I know that I think I'm an expert at, and I hope that they feel the same way, and then I hope that they get their students or employees or volunteers feeling that way too. But it's bizarre, and it felt borderline selfish at first. I was like, I shouldn't be doing this.
I would say in your case of like doing something more tangible though, but it's when it's friends, it's also weird, because then you're like,
exactly,
it's a favor, like you're a nice guy, like you know what I mean, like
I know
you're trying
you've
to help
done
out.
so many favors. So I can imagine like going from that to like, oh, this is monetary value, and it is bizarre.
And I think about even like moving companies, like paying people to move. Like I think I averaged like a dozen or like 20 people per semester that I help move out of their apartment at Marquette.
You and I did a lot of these together too, actually. Tom and I enjoy moving people out of their apartments, which I will happily put out in the ethersphere right now. It's fun, and it's a good time. And
it's available.
What I found, and I think you would agree, right? And seriously, sign it up.
At Jim M. Love on Twitter. Okay.
But if I break your shit, you can't come back and complain to me. That's all I will say. But I think it is funny, because oftentimes when you do something like that, you find people sort of at like a time when they're like arguing with a family member, like it's a hot day, like they're sweating and they're a little more vulnerable. And I found like it's really interesting to be in those situations of like, I'll help you at this time when you feel like you can't accomplish it yourself. And I love going into a room with a ton of boxes and leaving and then being like, this room's empty. Like I enjoy that feeling. Now, it's good workout too, by the way. And I always get beer and pizza when I'm done.
I mean,
And
I was
that
gonna say
just- I
that
mean,
is the
so-
part. Yeah.
It seems like you're doing it for the wrong reasons, Jim.
I wouldn't say it's the right reasons. But,
I was gonna say you might be the first person I've
focus
ever
on the
heard.
first part I talked about, the vulnerability part.
No,
people,
I forgot all about
Yeah,
that.
like beer and pizza.
Beer,
What was
pizza,
that? Yeah.
hangover, and they're trying to kick you out of their brand new apartment. And
Yeah. Jim,
Come
you
to
might
think
be
of
the
it, I do get
first.
Buddha quite often.
You might be the first person I've ever heard say, the psychological aspect of moving somebody out when
It's
you
true.
catch them at a vulnerable. No, I'm never.
Perspective, Alan.
I have never wanted to know more about somebody's personality by helping move a couch.
I can't see you
And
doing
say,
it ever,
you know what?
actually. Yeah, that would not be up your
Well, I've moved people out.
yeah.
I'll tell you a story sometime about me on a ladder with a couch. It was a bad time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds
That was a month
fantastic.
before my wedding. It was,
Oh, even better.
yeah,
Good
it was
timing.
bad. Anyway,
I'm interested.
Yeah.
But no, I think you bring up some good points too, and I think I've definitely seen that where and this can apply in many different areas, but definitely moving out, especially because that's usually a transition in life
It is.
as well.
It's a new
and
chapter.
So, and if there's family involved too, and if you can be there to help witness and just ease a little bit of that struggle,
That's the point. Yeah.
man, and especially like the attitude I think that you have, and I try to emulate too sometimes, is like when you can be so positive about something, like, hey, like this couch isn't gonna fit, no, we'll make it fit, or find another way that's not gonna just destroy their attitude
Yeah.
for the day.
Yeah, and you have some fun with it, and then you leave and you feel like you did something and you help them out. It's a good time. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I'm not gonna pretend like it's like a normal thing to enjoy, but haven't done it in probably 2 years. But I would would do it again.
The thing is, I got asked so often because people knew I had a truck.
Oh, that's
that helps
the
too.
pickup. If for those that have a pickup truck out there, like you're probably gonna be the one dude that gets asked to move for sure.
Which is fine.
That's it.
Which is fine.
So now you're
Yeah.
doing this, and then the thought comes of I should make this
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah. So just people asking me to work on their projects, work on their homes and stuff, and so no matter what job I had, like I was always still doing carpentry on the side, and like still people like pay me for it, which was cool, because a lot of the stuff I'm like, this is really fun, like I enjoy doing this, and even like when I was moving people, like if I got beer pizza, cool, but like there's also like, hey, like I have this like extra knickknack, or I have this like Marquette University like alumni license plate,
did get
which
some
is
cool
still on
stuff
my
out of
truck,
it. Yeah.
I got that from moving someone. I don't remember like a job 5 years ago where I got paid for it, but I remember like getting a free license plate.
Right.
License
Those
plate
memories
like
stick with you.
holder or whatever.
Yep.
For my
Yep.
so then eventually after doing so many jobs for people, I'm like, my I think girlfriend at the time was like, you should probably start a company, and she helped me like progress to the next level in many ways, in business and whatnot. So I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. And so it wasn't too tricky either. And I was actually at school at grad school at the time, so I was able to like apply for it for free, which was cool.
Nice.
Awesome.
And then got an LLC, which like I felt sounded way too official, and like I was
Yeah,
like, I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy. And it was cool to have my own business, and I could make a business card,
absolutely.
and say like, here's what I want to do, or like here's what I do, versus like some of the stuff like I don't want to do drywall anymore, I don't want to do concrete anymore, I don't want to like cut down trees anymore. Like I can say what I want to do.
So this starts. You have this, now, and doing great work, and doing well, and then you're in school now to become a social worker.
To be a social worker, yeah.
So
So that's the grad school piece of it.
Yeah, the grad school piece of it. So when did that start? And what is the goal when you're done in May?
Yeah.
I believe, which is not far away at all.
No,
That's
I know.
Yeah, I mean that's like 4 months, 5 months from now, 6 months from. Who the
Time's
hell
a flat
knows?
circle. It doesn't really
It's a
matter.
little while from
Yeah.
now. Yeah, tomato. But that's so into that now, and then the goal with social work is then to go into a school. I
Yeah.
assume. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, so this is a little different than carpentry. It was almost like
Yeah.
it was almost like freshman year of college where I was
Transition right there. It's a little different than carpentry.
I was an engineering student my freshman year, and then I switched to theology, and everyone's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, similar things." So I'm just, like, and they're like, "Wait, so you have a carpentry business, and you're going to grad school for social work?"
But hey, who is a carpenter?
It's honestly, this is kind of the reverse.
Jesus
Yeah.
was a carpenter.
There you go.
There you go.
I was waiting for somebody to say it. But this is almost like the
quite
reverse
biblical.
of a lot of the guests that we have on, where it's a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm in school, but I also do this thing, or
Totally.
I'm working at this 9 to 5 job, but I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
This time your business is the main hustle, and now social work is on the side,
yeah.
and then that may flip
Yeah,
right at
exactly.
some point.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good point. So if I graduate, hopefully in May and pass all my classes and everything.
You will. Don't worry. It's a will thing.
We'll force it through. We'll make it happen. We know some people.
Oh wow.
We'll
That-
talk.
We don't know anyone.
I really.
Yeah.
Ellen tends to break thumbs every now and then when
I mean,
it's
if I
needed.
gotta.
So
I got
My
really
wife is
excited.
do
Italian.
what you gotta do.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
No, I'm glad to have you guys on my side, on my team.
Yeah.
Always a good thing. So no, I will hopefully graduate in May, and then my track is school social work, and so my last job before I was a full-time carpenter and started my business was as a campus minister, and so I was kind of working with high school students and seeing a lot of the trauma and like issues they brought from home, and realized like the school itself was not able to like help them or care for them or support them, and I definitely wasn't. So I'm like, I need to get the tools that I need, and but also because my girlfriend at the time was like, you should try social work, because I've been talking about it since I was in college. I'm like, I would love to do a grad school social work degree, but I just never really saw the big picture of it, and I never really looked to the future too often, and I don't even know what I'm doing for lunch tomorrow kind of thing. So it's like, along with the bigger picture things.
Yeah.
But my girlfriend at the time was like, hey, you should do this. So I was like, okay. And it worked out great because now she's my wife, and she graduated this last May with her degree in social work. And so we were able to go through some classes together, which was awesome.
I was gonna say, you kept saying your girlfriend time. I'm like, is this your wife? Okay,
Yep.
we're good.
But
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm just
it.
saying, as soon as she
At the
entered my
time.
life, she made it better. So
Yeah,
There we go.
that's what I'm saying.
fantastic. I agree. Knowing her very well, I would agree with that.
So yeah, I'll probably, once I graduate, hopefully get a full-time job in a school and still be able to do carpentry on the side, because, doing such a manual job for so long, like it takes a toll on people.
It's tiring.
And I
Yeah.
also, with my experience in the past that we kind of talk about, like I feel that within ministry and within just like trying to help other people, like I feel like I can help people where it counts more in social work,
Yeah.
versus like someone who's like, I need a really nice, cabinet. I'm like, okay, that's cool to hold your
Yeah.
1,000
Yeah.
plates or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
So I think there's a sense that you probably don't feel as gratified doing. I mean, obviously you love the carpentry work and you enjoy it and you're good at it, but you knew there's something more. And,
Yeah.
and you want and based on your previous experiences of working in high school, is like that's where you wanted to be, knowing that you can continue doing work on the side and doing whatever you want, but really dedicating your time and energy and effort to being in schools and being with students and connecting with them, which is just funny. I mean, it's like such a, you kind of do one thing, go to the next, and you kind of pull back on that one and do this, and that's like how life works, which I think is really cool.
Do you think that do you find balance in that? Like in something being, so like, I don't want to say like one requires more or less brain power than the other, because you're activating a different part of your brain essentially. So like, do you find that when you have a very tough school week and then you have a job, like you can kind of not relax, but almost get a little bit more balance and being like, okay, now I can just focus on this thing, or vice versa. If you've got, you physically being tasked with doing a lot of, labor stuff, to be like, all right, I can kind of sink into doing some schoolwork and is there like, do you find that balance at all, or am I just crazy?
No, I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good to have that
To be
balance.
clear, you're crazy, but
Well,
it's a
that-
good
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You are crazy. For the 10 minutes I've known you. No, it's definitely good to have balance, but I don't ever feel like I've been one to need the balance. Like, I've my wife now and like other people before, Jim probably knows this too, like that, like I don't always, get as much sleep as I should, or, I can work a long day in New Orleans and then stay out like all night with people talking, and
I'll get a text from Tom at like 10 p.m. on a weeknight. Do you want to meet up? And I'm like,
yeah.
what is happening? So I would attest to that, and I envy that, because that's like you feel like you get energy from other things. And that's good.
which is true. Yeah. So I definitely get energy from that. It's probably good to have more balance, but I think for me, it allows me to be able to, like, this week has been like my busiest week of work in like a year or two, and so it's been great to be able to work like 10, 12 hours a day and then come home and like, be able to work on schoolwork, see my wife, talk to you guys tonight, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I love all that versus, having just to shut down afterwards. So I think the hard thing in that perspective of balance is being able to like go from a carpentry job to also like focusing on grad school homework in like the same day or in the same 2 days, because I would love to have just like a big separation between the two, where I can do like a week or a month straight of one thing and then do like a month straight of the next thing, and not have to like hopscotch between days of it, because that just is tricky.
What would you say to someone who's maybe in a job or owns a company that they really enjoy doing, but has always had an itch to go get educated to do something else. Like it's your, it's kind of how your situation is. Like, what would you give? Like, what's one piece of advice you give them, or something of like, I've really been enjoying this work I've been doing for a long time, but I've always had this thing that I want to explore.
Right.
I've been thinking about since college, and as you're coming to an end, frankly, of this education cycle, and you're going to get into your job. Do you have anything you would share that would be helpful for someone like that?
I mean, I don't know if I do or not, but if it's helpful or not. But I feel like in my experience, I've definitely been in awe and very humbled by many people, whether they're carpenters or social workers or anyone else in fields that they specialize in, just to see how incredible they are at it. And then for me to realize, like, I have so much to learn, especially like, and if people do feel that way, like, that's what I did. I went, like, I need to go to grad school because I need to learn more, because like I see these students hurting and I don't see them getting help. And I'm not able to help them the way they need to, and I think for someone who is like looking maybe to change, even like at a certain point in their career, they've invested in themselves in one thing and they need to change to something else. People do it all the time, and I think it's important to, like, if that's truly where they feel called, if they feel like they'll be more happy there. And obviously there's a balance between financials and like taking time off to go to school and pay for school and whatever it might be, like, that's one thing. But if that all works out and they have enough support and they feel more happy because of it, I mean, we have this one life in this world together, and I think it's important to make the most of it. Yeah. And so if someone is really hoping to try something else, like, I should have gone into advertising, or I should have gone into, church service,
it's
whatever.
Time to do it. Yeah.
Like, why not? Because I think you could say that if you're saying that thing today, you're going to say that 10 years from now.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's been 10 years of you having the opportunity to change and you haven't.
And I'm totally, I love that, because one of the reasons why we really even started this podcast is Alan and I are multi-interested, as we would call it, as tour guides. We wanted to do a lot, and that's why we have side hustles, is to keep on, like, that passion that we have for the other thing is important. It's a flame that will never be put out, and we have a lot of friends like that, which is who we bring on here. But you're right, like, it's our one life to live, and like I'm not gonna shun out something that I know that I have a fire for, even though it's not gonna be a full-time thing. Like, maybe one day it will be, who knows? But for now, it's there, and I really love doing it, and I want to be a professional at it, and that's what I sought to do. And it's important. Like, people have that fire, and to make sure that you're flaming that, and that it's there and not going to be put out. It doesn't have to be a bonfire. It could just be like a small fire. They can roast like one marshmallow on, and it's going to be delicious. Like, have that, and don't drop it, and know that you can continue whatever it's monetizing it, or just have it be a passion that you can continue forward with it. And that's important, because you're only going to get older. Like, you're not going to be in that realm of like peak condition to do that thing at all times. So have that while you're here. And I really do think that's like a theme of what we talk about a lot.
Yeah. We're also,
that was deep.
I know.
That was fantastic. I blacked out there for a
second. We're also in this world where you can try things and you can just go for it, because, like, I mean, there is always some way to, fall back on something. And like in your case, you have something to fall back on. Yep. But it's also like, I don't know, we are all in a situation where we're kind of like, if this doesn't work out, we have something else that we know we can always get to this. But I mean, if you don't, like you said, 10 years from now, you're going to ask yourself the same question and say, what if I would have pursued this instead?
Yeah.
So
never leave a situation with questions unanswered. Like, go for them, and then you'll know later on if it worked out. And typically it does. And if it doesn't, you learn something. And that's like, there's never anything that you walk away from as like a failure of like, that was just like a fatal error. It's just not the case. Like, you'll learn something, you'll take a lesson, you move forward, and it's going to make you better in some way, shape, or form, and whatever the next thing is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And I think part of that too is like realizing other people have dreams, and so in the kind of switching back to like that, like helping other people perspective and the ministry perspective. I mean, we think about all the people we helped at St. Ben's and those who like helped us in the same way, is like, for those, like somebody who's like, hey, I would love to like, get out of this, 2 jobs a day to feed my family and get an education, but like they can't because of financials or because of other systemic things or family or like other bills, and they don't have the support they need. And maybe somebody who might have a dream already that's on track or being fulfilled, they could like see the dreams of others and try their best to, in whatever that looks like, whatever capacity, because there's so much to it. But to be aware of the dreams of others and to be aware of like other people's suffering in this world, I think is something that we should all be looking at, because it's awesome. Like, I got my dream, I got my house in the country, I got a boat, I got whatever, I got a 501(k), whatever the retirement is.
I think that's it.
I don't think that's it, but
That's
sure.
the one. Yeah, that's correct.
I obviously don't look to the future too much, but you know, like when you feel like you're at a point where you're stable or you're like, you know, you're good, like that's not it, right?
Right,
Because there's
right.
other people
No
in the
doubt.
world who have not been dealt the same hand, and I think it's important to, you know, to reach out in whatever way that looks like.
Yeah. I know you said you don't look too far into the future. But where would you ideally like to take all this? I mean, would you like to keep the business going, you know, and expand that too while also having the social work, or?
Yeah, I mean, expanding the business right now is difficult because it's just hard to find like other people to like help me with projects and stuff. And a lot of stuff I do is more like, you know, more like kind of finished carpentry or like, you know, custom built-ins or cabinets. And it's like tough to have someone else come in and be like, oh, like here's how I would do this. It's like, it's very individual and personal, and not everybody in the construction world has like all the same mannerisms and customer service. And and just, you know, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I have so many stories of just like people who were like breaking things and saying nothing, or like, you know, stealing, like just all kinds of silly things. So like that'd be difficult to find people to train and work for, whatever. For those kind of jobs. Like there's bigger jobs I do, like building garages and stuff. That's a little bit more straightforward. But so if I could do that in some capacity, you know, in the future, that's cool, because I've done like general contracting where I am hiring out folks and stuff. But I think it also depends on the social work job. Like if it's a dream job of mine, like I'll go for it, and that'd be great. And I can, you know, serve the world in the way that I'm supposed to. Or if things aren't lining up the way that I think they should, then maybe I continue to do carpentry for a little bit. But there are like, I know one of the directors at the food pantry that I volunteer at sometimes has talked about like doing a type of prison ministry where they're taking people who have like usually young kids out of juvenile who have just got out of jail, and they're like, I need someone to train them in whatever skill it might be. But it's also more of a ministry where it's like social work of some sort, or some type of, you know, you're also doing assessments on them for whatever their mental health might be. Like, so there's like a little bit of crossover in that way, but it's very unique, and it's not like you know, a jobs.com thing you can find.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think either way, I mean, whether it's, you know, ministry or social work or carpentry or any of that, the common denominator here is you seem to be a person that just likes to help people out and give people a shot and you know, do something for them and give your service to them, which is, I mean, super commendable, I think. Absolutely.
I disagree. I don't think that's kidding. That's
wow, Jim.
That's it.
After all these years, this is what's coming out now?
Yeah, I would say that's it. That's the story. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has been a blast.
Yeah.
This has been great. I've learned so much, and now I want to not only have a bonfire and marshmallow like you were saying before.
That was a good analogy.
That was
Wasn't
great.
it? Yeah,
it was actually really good.
I got hungry and I kind of forgot.
Yeah,
what we were talking about.
right. Tom was thinking about Hershey's
We're gonna
chocolate.
go have a bonfire.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, people want to kind of get connected with you, see what you're up to. Is there a place that they can go follow you or find like your business out there?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't have the best social media things going on. I should hire Jim as my manager for that. But I do have, you know, Brew City Carpentry for carpentry stuff. But I'm pretty booked so right now, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But that, I think I have that on Nextdoor.
Okay.
That website.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it. So
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
That's
That's
somewhere.
perfect.
We can do
that's
it.
good.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's like emails for you guys on the show, and you can probably contact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which, speaking
make
of,
the connection.
Look at that transition.
yeah, we can get right into it. Thank you guys so much for listening. If this is your first time listening, welcome. We appreciate it.
If it's your 44th time listening.
If it's your 44th, we really appreciate
Yes.
it. You can follow the show anywhere you get your podcasts. So if it's your first time, welcome. If it's your 44th time, we're still
Extra
here.
welcome.
We're still
yeah,
doing it.
we still exist, and you're still here, which is the most important thing.
You can also find Hustling Sideways. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We are on YouTube, and now we are also
TikTok.
Yes, we're on TikTok.
TikTok.
You can,
Sorry.
you can get
My voice squeaked.
you can get little snippets of the show there as well. If you have a side hustle of your own, you can also send us an email. You can be on the show. Send us an email over at hustlingsideways@gmail.com. But yeah, like the show, subscribe, do the thing all the kids
5
say.
stars.
5-star rating. It's
That's
only
actually the only one
give
you're
us.
allowed to give.
Yeah, legally.
Correct.
Still the only
Which
one.
you think is an ongoing joke, it's actually an ongoing legal thing we have to
Yeah,
say.
no,
So I'm not, this is no joke.
every episode, gotta say
you
it.
have to do 5.
So otherwise,
you.
yeah. So 5 stars.
I just want to say I haven't been arrested yet for all the 1-star reviews. So
Well, that's just offensive.
now we
And
know,
people are listening.
and now we are going to send a
And
legal
that's the
team
last
after.
time you're going to be on this show,
Yes.
without a doubt. So carry on, Alan. Damn it.
Anyway, before anybody gets before any litigation comes down, we are going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back next week with more Hustling Sideways. And Jim,
Keep on hustling.
we'll see you next week.